Welcome to The Simple Sophisticate, where in 2014, this podcast premiered. And now in its 11th season, the show continues to focus on the same principles it was founded upon: the art of living a life of quality over quantity. Topics range from creating an everyday life you love living, strengthening mindfulness practices, building a capsule wardrobe, preparing seasonally delicious meals, traveling and exploring France and Britain, and living life to the fullest without breaking the bank, because living well really is quite simple. I'm your host, Shannon Ables, and whether you're listening on your commute, exercising, working in the garden, en route, or returning from that dream destination, or sitting down with a hot cuppa or a cafe au lait, thank you for tuning in. Let's get started. Welcome to episode 392 of The Simple Sophisticate. And welcome to an episode that I've been waiting to share with you about this time of year as we are just stepping into the holiday season, because we are going to be likely seeing, spending time, interacting with all sorts of people, chosen or not chosen. And it can be a very joyous time, but it can also be a time when anxiety increases, stress increases, and there are ways for us to improve or to reduce the unwanted feelings if we have the skills. Which brings me to today's topic, which is the art of connection, how we can connect well and build strong connections with other people of all different relationship types, whether it's intimate, so family and our partner, our children, or maybe it's our neighbors or the community or the people we see at work that we don't get to choose whether we're with them or not, and how to make those connections healthy and strong. So the book that inspired this podcast episode is one that was released just this past June. And I picked it up and read it the end of the summer. As I was reading it, I immediately knew this is the episode I want to share right about now in mid-November. So today I'm going to share with you 10 ways to build a strong and healthy social network as taught by David Robson, who wrote the book, The Laws of Connection, The Scientific Secrets of Building a Strong Social Network. Now, before I get to those 10 ways, I want to just give you a glimpse of what this week's petit plaisir will be. It is a Francophile find. It is someone who enjoys travel, wine, a good story, and it is a series I'm a little late to, but once I started watching it, I finished it in about a week, maybe 2 weeks. No, it's closer to a week. Anyway, I will explain to you what that series is and why I think you might enjoy it, and explain to you why I was initially hesitant to watch it, but I was wrong about many different things, and I was glad I was. All right, so let's get right into those 10 ways to build a strong and healthy social network, as taught by David Robson. So I'm going to begin with a quote from the book that speaks about the power to our health when we know how to connect well and to build healthy, thus strong relationships. Here we go. Quote, "In general, people who have more optimistic expectations about the possibility of forming a connection are more likely to overlook superficial differences and wait to see if they feel a spark of connection. They tend to have more diverse relationships, while those with fixed assumptions tend to have more limited social circles. Our beliefs about social connection can become self-fulfilling prophecies." And again, all the quotes I'm going to share throughout this episode are found in the book, The Laws of Connection by David Robson. So the quality of our social connections determines not only our enjoyment of our everydays, whether we are at work or in our personal lives, it also affects our health and well-being. While this news will likely shock nobody, what might shock us are the ways we unconsciously or unknowingly partake in habits that obstruct the opportunity for healthier and thus more enjoyable connections with others of all stripes. Based on cultural conditioning or insecurity within ourselves, or what was modeled to us while growing up, if it was unhealthy or unhelpful, we may have assumed there were certain ways to not only engage with the world, but what we should share and how much of our true feelings we should express about any given event in our lives. We may have unconsciously accepted rules or parameters. And those are the ones that we're going to address today in many of the points, because often we're doing things out of habit because this is the way we've seen it modeled. This is the way that's applauded. This is the way that we've been told, or we have it's been modeled to us is the only way to do it. Like to be too vulnerable is not a good thing. And so when I read science writer David Robson's latest book, and discovering the various research that dispelled previous held approaches as being helpful, as well as examples of how and why certain approaches were helpful or unhelpful, I took note not only while acknowledging where I could grow and learn, but wanting to share with you, the listeners of this podcast and the Simply Luxurious Life community. Because when we don't know what we don't know, then how can we improve? So this book really brought to light some really simple things that are somewhat complex until you get to the core of them, and then you sit there and go, that's why this wasn't working out. That's why I felt uncomfortable. That's why whatever it might be. Okay. While Robson shares 13 laws of connection, each of those laws are multifaceted. So based on what is working well for us now, or conversely, what we are struggling with when it comes to connection, we need to worry less about what those laws are and more about ourselves and where we would benefit from applying new knowledge and thus learning new skills in how to connect sincerely, well, and consistently with others to build a social network that elevates not only our lives, but those who are a part of our social network. It's a two-way street, as they say, and it's a two-way street, as they say, and sometimes we just don't know how to do that. We don't know how to connect well in a different situation that we've never been presented with because we don't have those skills. And that is where this book comes to provide the insights that we can learn. In today's episode, I've pulled 10 specific approaches and skills that caught my attention for cultivating and maintaining a wide breadth of relationships in our lives, whether it is with our colleagues or our romantic partner, a child, or parents, whether we are a young adult and connecting with our parents, or maybe we are an adult and trying to build a stronger relationship with our parents or know how to navigate healthily with our parents, or it might be a neighbor or a friend. All the skills that I'm going to share with you today will enhance every single one of those relationships. However, there are many more skills that are shared throughout the book beyond just these 10. So I encourage you, if this episode speaks to you, if it sparks something, if you find it to be insightful, I encourage you to explore the laws of connection. And I've linked to it on the show notes so you can check it out more and get to know the author a bit more as well. So let's get started. Number 1, the first way is to mind the importance of the quality of connection that we are making. Now, this may seem obvious, but what I'm speaking to here really relates more so to our acquaintances. So those people we don't spend a lot of time with, we may see them frequently, but we don't have super deep relationships with them, or we may have to work with them. And so they are acquaintances, but we know who they are and they know who we are, so on and so forth. So I want to share with you a quote about what he calls the problem with ambivalent ties. Quote, ambivalent ties, commonly referred to in this book as frenemies, provoked a stronger reaction than the purely adversive people. Something about the uncertainty of interaction made it much more stressful than meeting someone who was reliably unkind. End quote. So the simple practice of awareness comes into play with this first skill of minding the quality of the connection we make with those acquaintances in our lives. Because we will no doubt have many casual acquaintances throughout our daily lives. The question is, are we showing up consistently in our connection with each one? So our job is to not be the ambivalent tie. We don't want to be that person who connects with people inconsistently. So whether it's our mail carrier, our colleague 2 offices down, our neighbor who we don't want to become too close with them for whatever reason, but we do want to maintain a healthy tie. Or it could be, and I'll give you some other examples, with people that would typically be an intimate connection, but for whatever reason, there's just a lot of anxiousness around them or a lot of anxiety around them. So, as the quote reveals, perhaps surprisingly, our ambivalent connections cause us more unrest and increased stress than our known adversaries. Robson explains that ambivalence can appear in many forms, such as, quote, a lack of interest in your life rather than an overt disrespect. So maybe there's a parent or a parent figure in your life who, you're always seeing them, or you know that, you have to keep some kind of relationship with them, but they don't show any interest. They don't call, they don't ask questions. And so it's hurtful, but you have to maintain that. And they're not disrespectful openly. You don't have clashes with them, but there's just an anxiety there. That would be an example. Or a general unreliability. That means the person is often unavailable when you expect them to be watching your back. This could be that spouse as well that love bombs you one day and then is fiercely critical the next. In other words, you never know which person you will meet from one day to the next, but they are a part of your life in some way, a boss, a colleague, a parent, a child, a neighbor that leaves you in a difficult place to easily avoid them or let them go entirely. And so it's this ambivalence that makes it unclear as to what you should do as it isn't made plain. All right. So I think part of it is just identifying this is an ambivalent connection for me. This is why I feel this way towards them. And when you see it in others, it makes it easier for you to ensure you're not being that person toward other people. Robson goes on to explain that each ambivalent relationship will have its own best approach. And for some people, that will involve cutting ties with them completely. But for others, where we can't cut ties or don't necessarily want to entirely, simply acknowledging and knowing that it is an ambivalent relationship will help us mentally prepare for each encounter. So we won't have this expectation or this hope that they're going to show up differently. We know it's going to be, who knows what it's going to be, but we actually are self-protecting necessarily. We have to realize that we're not going to keep pushing or changing or expecting them to change because that's not in our control. So we don't engage or give more than what we know will ever come back to us with regards to consistency. Now, on the flip side, and to the point of what we can do to ensure we are not a person who is ambivalent to those we are connecting with, is to consciously remember to be consistent in our behavior. In other words, stop being egocentric, become aware of the situation, mood, etc., and always engage from a place of being responsive rather than reactive, and being loving and kind in your words and behaviors while pairing it with honoring your integrity. Again, this is going to appear in so many different ways for every single one of us because we have different ambivalent relationships. The key part here is, say, for example, like I mentioned, the neighbor. You may have many neighbors and some you're closer to than others, but maybe there's that one neighbor that is just, she's ambivalent. They are ambivalent. He's ambivalent. You never know what kind of mood they're going to be in on one day or the next, but you know you need to keep a healthy relationship. So you don't share the details of your travel plans with them, but you are consistent in your kindness. You don't throw a cold shoulder. You smile, you say good morning, but you don't have those long talks over the fence. You will have those with other neighbors, but that's because that relationship is different and it's grown and it's been established and it's consistent. So you are only in control of yourself. So the quality comes in your consistent effort and goal to not be, and intention not to be that ambivalent relationship. So now that we know or understand the detriments of an ambivalent relationship, and here are the health detriments: cellular aging, extra strain on our heart that raises levels of bodily inflammation. And this is just to name a few. This can prompt us, hopefully, first of all, to not be this person in other people's lives, but also to become more proactive in removing or ending those relationships that cause us to feel pained when we are in their presence. After all, we cannot change them, but we can change how and who we live with and around. So that's number one on how to establish healthy and strong relationships. Refrain from being an ambivalent relationship or being that person who's ambivalent, and choose to be a person who offers quality and consistency in their connections, no matter how or what level that relationship is. All right. You don't need to go deep with everybody. Just be consistent. Okay. Your neighbor walks by, you wave, you say hello. You don't the next day ignore them and pretend you don't see them when it's clear that you have. You just be consistent in your behavior, kind and loving, honor your integrity. Number 2, ask more questions. Quote, "It's easy to understand why questions are so charming. They demonstrate your wish to build mutual understanding and give you the chance to validate the other's experiences." End quote. When we ask questions and then follow up with questions demonstrating that we are listening, so long as we are being sincere and dancing that fine line of not being nosy, awareness is the key here, and so is respecting boundaries, we are gradually then building trust with the speaker. Follow-up questions have been proven to be the most positive for deepening a connection with others because they come from a place of being wholly present, as we could not have prepared that question, that follow-up question, in advance. And thus, this is a sincere engagement because we are expressing further curiosity in the person with whom we are conversing with. So that's number 2. Simply ask more questions. Don't be the interviewer, but like I mentioned before, knowing the boundaries of whatever relationship that is, and also being aware of all that's going on in that moment contextually. Ask a follow up question that is specific, that's on topic, that shows you're listening, but also respects who they are and what boundaries they've set for your relationship so far. So that's number 2. Number 3, this one couples quite well with number 2, is the art of attention giving. So, quote, "People are acutely aware of whether they are being listened to attentively, and their perception of receiving active attention from another predicts their feelings of trust towards that person and contributes to the well-being boost that typically comes from strong social connections. The formula is simple. The more attentive we are to someone, the happier they feel." End quote. Paired with asking questions is knowing the art of giving our full and, undistracted attention. By avoiding phubbing, and this is a word that he includes in the book, PHUBBING, also known as phone snubbing, the act of checking our phone for notifications or reacting to pings and alerts. When we avoid checking our phone or being distracted by the surroundings that we find ourselves in, we strengthen the connection with the speaker. There is no doubt that the person who is speaking is well aware of the noisy environment or the cars passing by or the household members in your house or the pets in your care if they are calling you or talking to you. So when you give your full attention as a listener, their appreciation for your efforts strengthens the bond between you, as your actions, to be fully there, fully listening, convey that you care enough to not be distracted when you could have easily been so. So that's number 3, the art of giving our full attention. 4, avoid the novelty penalty, but don't forget this important caveat. Let me begin with a quote to demonstrate what I'm talking about. Quote, "Looking for shared interests or common experiences to discuss is much healthier, whether you are talking to a new acquaintance or an old friend. However, if a subject is central to your life and represents an important element of your personality, you need to find a way to express it. Otherwise, your shared reality with the other person will always have an important part missing." End quote. So, first of all, this novelty penalty. We don't want to talk about something with someone else that it's not something that they either know about or it's clearly not something that will connect us. We don't have it in common. That's what we're talking about when we say novelty penalty. When we bring it up in a conversation, that's actually something that would hurt the ability to connect with someone. But it's a balancing act because we also want to connect with people and let them know who we truly are. So, how and when do we do this? Let's talk about this. Yet again, awareness plays a powerful and necessary role when we are talking with others. First of all, we need to remember to not talk too long about ourselves. This might seem a bit obvious, but even so, we know that there are still people out there who forget this guiding principle. But here's the follow-up. Pay attention to who you are talking to, which is knowledge we gain from listening, back to our point number 3. And then refrain from talking about an, quote, esoteric subject to impress the other person, end quote. That would be the novelty penalty we're talking about. Robson explains that it is far more helpful and healthy in building connections to, quote, look for shared interests or common experiences, whether you are talking to a new acquaintance or an old friend, as we mentioned in the quote. All right. However, As the quote cautions, we cannot completely ignore who we are, as this prevents people from getting to know us more intimately, whether it's platonically or romantically. The type of relationship we have with the person will dictate if we should share something that would normally be considered a penalty. And once we realize we need to start sharing who we are, even if they haven't partaken in or have similar interests in what we're going to share, quote, we must make sure that we provide enough details to avoid creating unnecessary informational gaps, end quote. As far as knowing what those informational gaps are, making sure you aren't patronizing them. First, quote, think carefully about their baseline knowledge, end quote. So, in other words, bring awareness and then, if necessary, ask them how familiar they are with the subject. This will help you get to know them as well. Being transparent will help you gain the missing knowledge you need so you can get to know them better as well. And thus, you can share a bit of yourself with them that would be helpful to connect with you better and also build a healthy bond. So it's a slow go, but it's awareness. It's making no assumptions, asking questions if necessary, and being very careful about not being patronizing, because you may be really excited to talk about your travel plans to a particular foreign country, but you don't know if your new friend has traveled internationally. So you might want to just simply ask the question, do you enjoy traveling? And so then you can have a base point of what and how much to share. But you also are going to be able to let them know that you do love traveling. You just may not talk about it as much with them, but at least they know a little bit about you. All right, so that's number 4. Avoid the novelty penalty, but don't forget to insert yourself a little bit so that they truly do know who you are. All right. Number 5 is express appreciation and be kind. Quote, exchanging kind words not only motivates us to behave better, it also calms our stress responses, increases our resilience to change, and reduces our risk of mental illness, end quote. We pair gratitude with kindness to ensure we don't become ingratiating or flatterers. He mentions the word don't be a sycophant. This idea of saying whatever the other person will appreciate hearing and not caring if it's genuine or true, but just simply want them, you just want to gain favor. None of those things, flattery, ingratiating ourselves, are going to be of benefit to building a strong and healthy connection with someone. Whether we are expressing or receiving appreciation, studies have shown that our body's physiological stress response does calm down. So whether we're receiving or giving, the gratitude need not be for something grand or obvious, but studies have shown it does need to be specific regarding the words we choose. Robson shares that the best expression of gratitude includes expressing our observation of their personal qualities that contributed to the act of generosity, end quote. You can also include how their generosity benefited you, but studies have shown that the former, talking about their qualities, is more welcomed rather than talking again about yourself. So pairing kindness and appreciation together ensures that we're aware of the individual, we're seeing specifically what they have done, and we're brave enough to say something. I mean, if you haven't done it today already, take a minute to either send an email, to reach out, to say something verbally to a colleague that you appreciate that they've done. But again, don't just say thanks for that. Be specific. Be specific. All right, so that's number 5. Those are the first 5 ways to help build strong and healthy relationships. And I'll be right back after these 2 sponsors to share the remaining 5. If you need to hire, you need Indeed. Indeed is your matching and hiring platform with over 350 million global monthly visitors, according to Indeed data, and a matching engine that helps you find quality candidates fast. Ditch the busy work. Use Indeed for scheduling, screening, and messaging so you can connect with candidates faster. And Indeed doesn't just help you hire faster. 93% of employers agree Indeed delivers the highest quality matches compared to other job sites, according to a recent Indeed survey. As someone who works with contractors, freelance, regularly throughout my blogging career, knowing that I'm going to get high quality candidates to choose from on the first look saves me time and reduces my stress. And that is exactly what Indeed provides. Leveraging over 150 million qualifications and preferences every day, Indeed's matching engine is constantly learning from your preferences. So the more you use Indeed, the better it gets. Join more than 3.5 million businesses worldwide that use Indeed to hire great talent fast. And listeners of the Simple Sophisticate podcast will get a $75 sponsored credit to get your jobs more visibility at Indeed.com/simple. Just go to Indeed.com/simple right now and support this show by saying you heard about Indeed on the Simple Sophisticate. That's Indeed.com/simple. Terms and conditions apply. Need to hire? You need Indeed. The Simple Sophisticate is also sponsored by Jenny Kane. How is Jenny Kane simplifying and elevating your holiday season? How have they made gifting a breeze? Well, let me share with you how they can help you out. The holiday season is here, which means Jenny Kane is focused on all things festive and giving. And that means Jenny Kane is your go-to destination for the very best of the season. With their iconic gift guides leading the way, Jenny Kane makes it effortless to check off everyone on your list, yourself included. Everything Jenny Kane makes is pure luxury, from their cashmere knits and essential outerwear to their homeware pieces like their obsession-worthy candles. There's no better place to get into the seasonal spirit than at Jenny Kane. For the rest of November, enjoy 25% off everything, home included, during Jenny Kane's biggest sale of the year. This is the moment everyone's been waiting for. So for a limited time, go to jennykane.com and use the promo code SIMPLE15 to get 25% off. I recently was given their fisherman sweater, pure cashmere in ivory, and I have been loving it layered over a silk camisole. It is such a soft sweater and has just a little bit of texture that allows for me to wear it throughout the everyday, paired with a pair of jeans and some boots. And it just is something that feels cozy and perfect this time of year. Now, this sale has already begun and it lasts through the end of November. So don't forget to take advantage of the 25% savings off everything, both in-store and online. And when it comes to shopping for gifts, don't forget about their home essentials, such as the giftable candles. Every scent is utter perfection, and it is also on sale. Their holiday gift guide has also just dropped, which makes gifting a breeze. Shop Jenny's Edit, favorites that are under $250, and plenty of other gift-giving categories. Plus, they have an incredible rewards program where you can earn up to 10% back with every purchase, and joining is completely free. So gift yourself and your loved ones the best gift of all, Jenny Kane. From now through the end of November, listeners of the Simple Sophisticate podcast will get 25% off your first order when you use the promo code SIMPLE15 at jennykane.com. That's 25% off your first order for the rest of November when you use promo code SIMPLE15 at JENNIKAYNE.com. Let getting dressed be one less thing to worry about. All right, welcome back. So let's get right back into our list of ways to build strong and healthy relationships and connections. Number 6, rethink the quote feedback sandwich and instead just be truthful yet thoughtful in your delivery. Here's a quote from the book. In everyday language, we often confuse being honest with being blunt. But when we are delivering truthful feedback, it's more important than ever to talk with precision and nuance, end quote. So lately, and I've heard this on various podcasts and articles that I've read, studies have shown that Gen Z is onto the feedback sandwich and is having nothing to do with it. In other words, the potentially false positives surrounding the criticism do not land and are simply negated or dismissed, even if they are true, because of this practice of the sandwich. So even if those positives are genuine compliments, they're not listening to them. They're not receiving that benefit because they know you're just trying to buffer supposedly this criticism that's coming. And it makes sense. So this is a formula that we need to let go and instead be brave and tell someone what they would benefit hearing. Now, there are a lot of caveats to this. We don't want to just tell everybody criticisms as they come out. There's checkpoints. We need to double check and make sure that this is something that needs to be shared. We are the person that needs to be sharing it. And do we really know what we're talking about? In other words, are we the expert that they're going to respect sharing that information with them, whoever that person may be? So it needs to be done with thoughtfulness. And if you are someone, like just mentioned, that the listener will trust that you have good intentions in sharing this with them and that you're an expert in what you speak of. So be specific in any criticism that you're providing so that it can be utilized constructively for change that will benefit the person you are talking with. And at the heart of choosing to tell them whatever this might be, ask yourself, quote, why should I be the person to deliver this information? And why do I feel I should share this information? In other words, what is your intention behind wanting to give this constructive criticism? Now, here's the other important detail to remember. Recall, before you provide the feedback, if you have ever offered praise, gratitude, or congratulations to this person. If you haven't, stop right now and do not give your feedback. It will not be received with trust, with entire trust. You haven't built the relationship with this person for them to trust what you have to say. In many ways, this is a delayed feedback sandwich. So, what we're talking about here is really still a sandwich. It's just that it's without the intention to create a sandwich. In other words, you've been building this relationship for a long time. You have already offered, praise, genuine praise, compliments, congratulations, things that this person knows were genuine. And so that when you do at some point come to them and offer some criticism, they can trust that it comes from a good place, that your intentions are to help them, not to be an overlord, not to be patronizing, not to be snarky or judgmental, but to genuinely help them improve and succeed. So you have more to celebrate. All right. So it does come in many ways with the sandwich formula. It's just that it's a delayed sandwich formula. So if we expand this sandwich, our criticism can be trusted because the recipient will reflect back and recall if you've ever been able to see something positive in their life journey, choices, or actions. I do this a lot with readers who email me because I get a lot of emails. I got a lot of emails over the years or comments on the blog. If there is a reader who I receive an email from them and it's pointing out something I should improve or catching something that's not correct or offering some positive suggestions to improve the site, I'll often go back and I will recall mentally, or I will go back in my emails, but usually I'll remember quite quickly if I've heard from this person before. And if there's someone I've heard before who's offered genuine a compliment or said thank you about something that I haven't asked for, it just comes very organically, then I'm paying attention to this person. I'm going, okay, this person wants to improve this site. They genuinely enjoy it. They're not having a bad day, whatever it might be. I am listening. And I have received so many kind emails of constructive criticism. I'm so grateful for them because, again, their experience is a little bit or a lot different than mine because I'm the creator, there's the recipient, and I want to make sure that they're having a good experience. But I'm more apt to trust their feedback if I know that they have been a reader that has been brave enough or taken the time to invest in the community and shared a positive that they've really enjoyed previously. So it's just something to consider when you're thinking about providing feedback to someone. Have you taken the time to provide compliment, congratulations, praise, whatever it might be prior to this without ever expecting that you would have to give or be inspired to give constructive criticism? So that's number 6. Rethink the feedback sandwich and instead just be truthful yet thoughtful in your delivery. Number 7 is to embrace conflicity. Now this word is one we don't see very often, so I'll just spell it out for us. CONFELICITY. Right off the bat, I know you know what felicity is, and so you can probably put together what this word means if you've never seen it or heard of it before. So let me begin with a quote that was used in the book, but is from Friedrich Nietzsche. He shares, quote, "Fellow rejoicing, not fellow suffering, makes the friend," end quote. I always love learning a new word. Or being introduced to a word more intimately. And such is the case with complicity. It comes from the root con, C-O-N, meaning together or with. And then, as we know, felicity means happiness or joy filled. And so you likely have surmised what it means. It means a shared joy at another's success or well-being. Robson points out that opposingly, compassion is derived from the Latin root and means, quote, shared suffering, which is going to now lead me to another word I want to share with you that will underscore what complicity is and the importance of it for building strong and healthy relationships. So you may know the German word Schadenfreude. It is to take joy in another person's misfortune. All right. But did you know that this word has a, quote, saintly sister, as Robson describes it? Mitfreude. Mitfreude, Mitfreude, is the German word meaning, quote, joying with, which makes it synonymous with conflicity. Conflicity is, quote, an essential means of providing and receiving social support, as Robson wrote in the book. So we're going to focus on this word complicity because for so long, it may have been taught to us, it may have been modeled to us that we gain social support more through compassion, and I would even say misery, shared misery. And that may be going too dark in some instances, but if we have a shared negative experience, that's going to build a bond. However, studies have shown differently. In fact, studies have shown that it actually makes both participants less happy when they keep commiserating and keeps joining together in this shared suffering. But for so long, we've been told that we shouldn't gloat, we shouldn't brag about what's going well, that we refrain from sharing this good news with people. And that actually, if we do it correctly, can build super strong and healthy bonds. So how do we do this? How do we celebrate and share our successes with others? Let me just run down the list that he shared in the book. First, we need to demonstrate authenticity with regards to our feelings and our genuine desire to build a social connection with another person. So we need to choose thoughtfully who we're going to share this news with. Then we need to let the person know about this good news as soon as possible so that they don't think we delayed it for whatever reason. All right. Then we need to be honest about the way that we feel, but we don't want to exaggerate our joy or make any kinds of claims that are unfounded. So just keep it real, keep it honest. And next, we need to avoid overtly comparing ourselves to anyone else. All right. This is just your moment. Savor it, celebrate it. There's no need in any regard, in any aspect of life, to compare ourselves to others. Only comparison that's healthy is ourselves, who we were yesterday. And lastly, we need to check, and this I think is even most important, check our intention with regards to why we want to share this good news with others. If these two things I'm going to share with you next, one or both, doesn't matter, one or both are your intentions, then do not share your success with anyone. Okay? If your intention is to highlight your high social status, check yourself, do not share. Or if you refuse to express any insight into your thoughts, feelings, or dreams. So in other words, you're sharing how awesome this news is, but you're refusing to share your emotions and how happy it makes you or however it makes you feel, meaning you're not willing to be vulnerable. Nope, don't share it. You've got to be, yes, willing to share your good news, but also be willing to be vulnerable and let someone get to know you and what you care about. So there's the checklist, and I've listed it as a checklist you can kind of see on the show notes there. So one of the most assured ways to know if others will be willing to celebrate with us is if they know our journey to this point, which means have we been able to put our ego aside and share setbacks and disappointments along the way? If others know our journey, now they may not know every little detail, but they know some of the ups and downs. They will be better able to understand why we are so elated, and this will help build a mutual understanding. And so it's important to remember to celebrate as well with those you love when they have positive experiences in their life and they let you know what's going on. No matter where you are on your life journey, to choose to celebrate with them and cheer them on when they're brave enough to share it with you. Now, you are keeping in mind this checklist, and they might, not have that checklist in mind, and they might, compare themselves with them, whatever. They might do something that wouldn't be super helpful on that checklist, but it shouldn't prevent you from celebrating them and offering congratulations and a good cheer. So if jealousy arises, if envy arises, remind yourself that that is a reflection of something that needs to be addressed within you and shouldn't prevent you from celebrating with them. Use it as inspiration. their success. Use it as motivation. Don't use it as competition. Don't use it to distance yourself. Be that person that you would want them to be to you. And that's another opportunity for that relationship to deepen. All of this provides awareness on both sides for us to use to say, oh, I need to learn how to do this. Or maybe later down the road, I'll share with them that that's why this was a little hurtful, how they chose to celebrate, if there was something that really nagged at you. But not in that moment. Let them celebrate and be the person that you would want to be if you were celebrating. All right. So that's number 7. Embrace conflicity. All of this benefits our health and happiness. Number 8, co-reflect together rather than brood together. And this doubles up a little bit with number 7, as we talked about earlier, how people that are involved in shared suffering actually both decrease their happiness. So this does align with number 7 as well. So, quote, it really is good to talk, but the healthiest conversations will help the person to move beyond their immediate pain by encouraging greater wisdom and insight into their problems. And to do that, we need to engage in co-reflection, end quote. So if you are a longtime listener of this podcast, you may remember back in 2022, I think it was. Anyway, it was episode 317. And we were talking about cultivating a life of vitality. And number 7 on this list underscore the importance of what we're going to talk about in number 8 right now. It's that we should let go of venting with other people. So rather than letting your conversation partner vent and fall further down the well of negativity when something unwanted has occurred in their life, find the balance between listening, but then offering distance from the scenario to think more objectively about other reasons for it happening rather than the worst case scenario, or rather than dwelling in the emotional pain. You're not asking them to deny the pain. You're not letting them, suppress it. We're not saying that, but we don't want them to dwell there. In other words, Robson shares, we actually do our friend or partner no favors by letting them continue down the road of venting, as studies have actually proven that both people will feel unhappier in the long run. Why? Quote, brooding conversations increase levels of the stress hormone cortisol, which could cause bodily harm if it spikes too frequently. Instead, choose to reflect with them rather than to brood. So first, yes, let them share their feelings, but then, quote, help the person move beyond their immediate pain by encouraging greater wisdom and insight into their problems. Not because you have the answers to their problems, that would be patronizing, but by asking why questions instead of what questions. Quote, greater casual insight is immediately encouraged, end quote, which broadens the lens to more likely bring, quote, greater meaning to what happened, end quote. Studies have demonstrated that those who were asked why questions were able to reach closure more quickly and put the unwanted feelings to rest, but not suppress them. So you acknowledge them, you feel them, and you move beyond them, thus arriving at closure more quickly. So this is just another reminder of what is beneficial when it comes to trying to help someone, or maybe it's reverse, maybe we're the ones hurting, to remind ourselves not to dwell in the venting and the brooding. It actually isn't constructive. No matter how often we see it modeled or hear people say, you got to get it off your chest, you got to get it out. This is actually hurting the person that's receiving it, and it's not actually helping you. So do it healthily, journal it out if you need to. Do something physical that's healthy, some self-care. And if you're the person listening, ask those why questions. Examine it as objectively as possible. Talk about what you really know, and move beyond it. So that's number 8. Number 9, learn how to provide helpful support during difficult situations. Again, this ties a lot with number 8 and number 7, but this one will speak very specifically to those unwanted situations and how to help people feel validated, but also navigate through these unwanted moments well. Quote, we are so focused on validating people's feelings and meeting their immediate emotional needs that we forget to encourage this perspective shift, or we may worry that our attempts to encourage reappraisal could appear to be dismissing others' pain or discomfort, end quote. Every person will navigate differently through unwanted situations. It is not our job to tell them what they need. So, in other words, it's not our job to tell them how they should navigate through, whether it's grief, whether it's loss in any way. Maybe it's a relationship, maybe it's a job, whatever it is that's unwanted. It is not our job to tell them how to get through it, even if their experience looks a lot like the one we may have gone through. No, 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 no. Check yourself. This will actually only strain the relationship and erode trust. Maybe immediately, but definitely long term. What is important to keep at the forefront of our minds when we recognize that someone we care about is going through a difficult time, prompted by any number of reasons, is that their needs of how to navigate the situation are paramount to what we need to provide with regards to support. So, in other words, if we feel, oh, but I need to be able to help them. No, it's not about you. What do they need? In other words, we may feel initially hurt that they aren't opening up to us, if that's what we think would help. But that, again, is a reflection of the healing we need to find for ourselves to be more self-secure when someone responds in a way that makes us uncomfortable. Okay? Instead of feeling hurt when someone else is in pain and we try to offer support and it is refused, extend awareness to them that you see that they are hurting and offer your support, but do not force it upon them. So, for example, let them know that you are available should they need to call you, or for anything that you specifically want them to know you can provide should they need it. But do not force that help upon them, because it's really not help. It's eroding the trust. It's straining that relationship. It's giving them more stress in a stressful moment already. You will build trust by respecting what they ask for, because that validates their feelings, quote, while providing an alternative perspective on their problem, end quote. What that means, what he means by saying provides an alternative perspective on their problem, is our ability to keep an open mind that we don't know exactly what they are going through, even if it looks similar on the surface to what we may have been through previously. By stepping back and letting them come to us, we acknowledge that there are other ways, should an unwanted event take place, that event will be received, and thus what the emotional response might be and how one wishes to navigate through it. So that's number 9. What is the most beneficial way of providing support during a difficult situation? Knowing what that is, how to do that, is going to be nuanced and unique to every single person, because we don't know. We don't know what they want, what they need. What we can do is simply provide, here I am if you need me. And just recognizing that they're hurting. I think that is huge. I know from my own experience, when people haven't reached out and they knew something had happened, say a family member knew something unwelcome that was really heartbreaking happened, and they never reached out. And then when they finally did, just hearing from them, knowing that they acknowledged it, that they cared enough to say, I know you're hurting and I'm just thinking about you. And then to go one step further is to say what you can offer should they need help, but not forcing it upon them. So that's number 9. Number 10, last but not least, is to be someone who apologizes and apologizes well. I will share with you the tips and skills on how to do this, because it is nuanced, but there are some key components. Quote, ensure your apologies define the offense, take responsibility for your actions, and express regret, end quote. I wanted to conclude with this skill because it is a skill, and one we often don't fully learn in order for it to be helpful for strengthening or repairing a relationship. In Robson's book, he shares the detailed list of the elements of an ideal apology according to social psychologists, and I would like to share with you those. So here is the list. It's 8 items, so quite a few. A clear statement framing the apology. 2, acknowledgement of responsibility for the offense. 3, identification of what that offense was. 4, a request for forgiveness. 5, an expression of regret or sadness. 6, an offer of repair. 7, an explanation for why the offense occurred. And 8, a promise that it will not reoccur. So I've included this list on the show notes, the simplyluxuriouslife.com/podcast 392 if you want to check out that list. Again, it's a lot, right? So it's a skill. It's really just being aware, slowing down, responding, not jumping in, just saying, I'm sorry, I'm sorry, I'm sorry. What are you sorry for? Why? Express regret, promise it won't happen again with awareness that it won't. You're not just saying it to say it. Share your experience as to why that came about, why it happened. Where none of us are perfect. None of us are perfect. We will make mistakes. There will be always a reason to apologize at some point in our life. That's a whole nother conversation, but that is so true, right? This list follows what sadly is the common practice of those who don't understand why their apologies fell flat, meaning they say they're sorry, but it doesn't feel to the person, the recipient, that you actually are sorry. So that relationship really isn't repaired. It isn't strengthened. And my number 2 on that list is if you've never apologized, all right, oh goodness, if you never if you're in a relationship with someone who never apologizes, that is a reason why a relationship might be called or be described as an ambivalent relationship. Because if you never feel the person will acknowledge that they've made mistakes, that's something you can't make them learn that skill. They have to choose it. And that makes for a lot of tension in the relationship, a lack of trust as well. So when responsibility isn't claimed, so on that last point, when responsibility isn't claimed by the party that caused the hurt, and even if they do express an apology, it never really feels like one. They might say, I'm sorry if you if they say that, I'm sorry if you felt hurt. No. They're not acknowledging that they did hurt you because you already told them you hurt them. Or if they, offer no contrition whatsoever or even aware that they hurt you, even if you've told them that, or they don't express regret that they've caused someone they supposedly love hurt, this is going to deteriorate the relationship. So we can't control others. We can only control ourselves. Let's learn how to be someone who does apologize when it's necessary and knows how to do it effectively and sincerely. So when we know why apologizing is helpful, then we can choose to learn how to do so well and not be afraid to apologize. It's not a sign of weakness. It's actually a sign of courage and strength, because you can acknowledge and also have enough self-confidence and self-security to say, hey, I made a mistake. I am not going to let you beat me up beyond that mistake, but this is the mistake I made and I'm going to rectify it. If this is a relationship you care about, you're going to be brave enough to do that because it brings to our attention that we hurt them. And when we see that we've hurt someone and we love them, we don't want to do that. All right? Because sometimes we don't know that we've hurt someone. So when they're brave enough to say, hey, you hurt me, how we respond is going to play a significant role in the quality of that relationship. So here are the benefits. If we know how to apologize and we know how to do it well, it will boost a person's sense of their integrity. So the person you're apologizing to, it will boost their sense of integrity. It promotes greater self-compassion, and it allows the transgressor to feel more positive about their future behavior, which promotes a stronger and healthier well-being long-term. And the most significant benefit is saving a relationship that we care about. It begins with being willing to be vulnerable, to acknowledge that we have caused someone pain. And in doing this, we have done what is our responsibility to help heal the relationship. All right. So that's the last way to build strong and healthy relationships. Be someone who apologizes and apologizes well. All right, I'm not going to pretend that absorbing each of these detailed skills will happen immediately. It won't. But awareness is key. Knowledge is power as far as learning a new skill. And how we improve is through practice. When we start doing something differently, something different happens. This all takes place with regular practice. Robson compares the physical muscles of the heart to how we can improve in our ability to use these skills to improve our relationships and the quality of our lives, thus a more enjoyable and happy life. So keep trying, utilize the awareness that you have to acknowledge where you can improve, and then try again. So long as your intention comes from a place of love, your efforts, even if dismissed, will not cause pain or erode trust. There may be a pain or a delay, or you may realize for your own benefit who is best to have in your life based on their responses to how you are changing in your communication. But rest assured, healthy connections are being developed and strengthened. And if you keep that in the back of your mind, just keep trying. Not everyone is going to feel comfortable engaging in this way, but they know you will, and they can start to realize, I will feel safe with this person. I can communicate with this person. And that's a gradual process. You're not going to immediately build these amazing relationships. And with the right tools and skills, amazing relationships can be built. I'm going to give you an example. Just recently, so I've talked a lot about my neighborhood, and I love my neighborhood. There's about 5 or 6 houses in my little area that we started to get to know each other right before the pandemic in 2019, and then we really just became really close throughout. And in 2022, we started to have a progressive dinner on Christmas Eve because we were all here, and every year we've been doing this. And it's not that we're in each other's lives all the time, and all of us have different reasons we're super close or closer to certain neighbors and not. But just this last week, there was a health emergency with one of our neighbors, and the partner of this particular person wasn't there just by chance. She was doing an errand that actually prevented her from being there. She physically couldn't be there to help him, and we were. And turned out everything is now fine. But the key thing here is we had trust in each other to connect when we needed help, but we had built a trust up over years of just for no benefit of our own, just saying hello, just helping each other out without expectation of anything in return. And we continue to do that. And I just think that it's the lack of expectation that builds a really strong relationship. And that comes from you simply being brave enough to be kind, to be loving. Yes, set the boundaries you need to feel comfortable in your home, in this instance, in our neighborhood. But in all your interactions, be loving and kind. And there's so many amazing gifts that come out of that. You don't know what they will be, and you cannot know what they will be. But they will be healthy and they will be strong. So I'll leave you on that note. And I want to thank you for your interest in exploring this topic with me today. And may the holidays, whatever holiday you are celebrating, whomever you are gathering with, desired to be with, reluctantly have to be with, whatever it is in between, maybe start practicing these skills or the skills that you know you want to improve, whatever those might be. And I hope that your holidays are filled then with more joy, celebration, and love than you might have ever imagined were possible. Thank you so much for tuning in. And now to the petit plaisir. I'll be right back to share with you what that is. This episode's petit plaisir is a Francophile find, a bit of a foodie find, and a traveler's find. And as I mentioned at the top of the episode, I'm a little bit late to this one, maybe a lot late. I'm talking about the drama series on Apple TV Plus called Drops of God. It premiered in April 2023, and the first season is 8 episodes long, lasting about an hour each. And it is actually based, this is what's so lovely and unique about this, it's actually based on a manga series. And I have a feeling most of you are familiar with them. They are a graphic novel. It's in the form of a comic book, and they originated in Japan. And they are aimed at not just children, but adults as well. I mean, I remember having a teacher in our high school that was using a manga novel to teach a particular lesson. So anyway, this series is based on a manga series titled Kami no Suzuku, and the authors of this actually use a pseudonym on the actual title, but it is a brother and sister team that wrote it, and it was illustrated by another individual, and it was originally published back in 2004, running for 10 years, so from 2004 to 2014. Anyway, it has now been adapted into a drama series on television titled Drops of God. And initially, I have to say, the publicity for this series made me hesitant to watch it. And I'm just going to share my experience again. I was also, a lot of other things were probably going on. I wasn't really paying too close of attention. I saw that there was wine involved because you see that in the pictures and the images. but I didn't understand, was it a drama? Was it a thriller? And so it wasn't made clear to me if it was something that was too thriller-esque. I'm not a fan of thrillers. I don't want absurd drama, stressful drama. And I didn't know the extent of which wine was going to be a part of it. To my loss, as I mentioned, because this is a wonderful series. So let me just give you the backstory of it. If you've already watched it, you know that we're in for a treat to watch it. But this is a family story in many ways, but the protagonist is Camille. Um, Camille is played by French actress Fleur Geffier, and her counterpart, so the person she has a competition with to potentially earn the inheritance of her father, who is in the first episode. I'm not giving anything away here. It's known to us that he dies, or he's about to die, and then he does die in the pilot episode at the age of 60. Her father, he's the famous Leger wine guide creator, Alexandre Leger, and her father is dying, and he has left this enormous estate of 87,000 bottles of wine collected from around the world. And he's in Tokyo when he dies. He is French, however. And so you have this lovely story that has us first in Paris, and actually has us first out in the French vineyards down in Provence. And then it has us in Paris, and then it takes us to Tokyo. And then at one point we eventually go to Italy, northern Italy. And then we're back in Paris where it finally concludes while also being in Tokyo. And so you have 4 different languages: English, French, Italian, and Japanese being spoken. And I did not find that discombobulating. They spoke more English than any other language because when they're in Tokyo, that's the common language, English. But the subtitles are easy to follow, and you learn so much about wine. What threw me off initially when I started watching it was this young girl who's being trained to be very astute and aware of this amazing skill that she's been born with, to recognize wine varietals. And she's very young, she's 7 or 8. And you're not sure exactly what's going on here, but you might assume that there's some form of abuse. And some may argue, yes, this is abuse, but the child, you'll start to learn as you keep watching, actually quite enjoys it and actually makes some decisions on her own without her father's prompting that he wouldn't want her to do, that cause some of the unwanted outcomes. Long story short, it is essentially a beautiful scavenger hunt of a young woman who's 29. Camille is 29. She's a well-renowned author. She's written one book called the La Boulie, which is inspired by her father, because she didn't spend any of her childhood after that, 7 or 8 years of age, with her father. Her mother removed her from the situation, but she does have this amazing gift, and he saw it. It is an interesting dynamic. It's not black and white with regards to, it's not simple. There are a lot of complex stories and emotions to navigate through, which makes it engaging. I didn't find it to be unnecessarily dramatic, except for some of the illustrations with regards to when she senses something or discovers a particular taste in a wine. That was dramatized sensationally, but to good effect, I think. And if you've watched it, you know I'm talking about. But with each episode, it just gets more engaging and more interesting, and you start to really like nearly all of the characters by the end in some way or another. You might like some more than others, but there's something likable about all the characters by the end of this. And but when you start watching this series, you might think, Shannon, how is that possible? By the end, you will like something about just about every single character. There is one person you might not like at all, but it's a person whose role actually flips with regards to the presentation of this person at the beginning and who we know him to be at the end. There's only one, so I will check myself there. There's one. Other than that, it is just a joy to watch, and you learn so much from a layperson's perspective. I know I learned a lot about wine, having been interested in wine for 20 years now, living. And this is the lovely thing. In the last episode, I'm not spoiling anything. As someone who has lived near Walla Walla, Washington for 10 years and visited from time to time, Walla Walla, Washington was a question on the wine test, and that just thrilled me to no end. They do have lovely wines there, and it's a small little part of the wine community, but it is fantastic wine country. Anyway, long story short, I highly recommend this series if you're looking for a travel show, a drama that's well told with a lovely, engaging storyline, likable characters, and diving into the wine culture of France, Tokyo, and Italy. Watch this series, Drops of God. And if you're wondering why the God reference, this is not a religious story whatsoever. And they don't give away what the reason for God is in that phrase until the last episode. If you're someone who knows wines or just knows the general importance of anything successful in a garden or growing anything, you'll know what God is in reference to. Okay, I've probably given way too much away. All right, you can find this series on Apple TV Plus, and they just announced a couple of months ago that there will be a second season. So look for that likely next year. I'm assuming probably more like next fall. But I can guarantee that I will be including the second season on the week that it premieres on that particular This and That on the blog. So be sure to check out that regular favorite weekly post on the Simply Luxurious Life blog. All right. I hope you've enjoyed this week's Petit Plaisir, where each episode ideas are shared to make the everyday all the more enjoyable. Tune in at the end of each episode where I'll recommend a book, a film, a show, a recipe, anything that is a simple pleasure to satiate your sophisticated taste. I want to thank you so much for tuning in today. And I hope you found this episode both helpful and enjoyable. I wanted to share a quick review and send a big thank you out to listener Elizabeth Grace, who wrote, "A breath of fresh air, 5 stars. I've heard about this podcast through different blogs. I love how Shannon speaks so calm and soft and really causes you to slow down and focus on the podcast. She has such good advice to apply to your everyday life." Thank you so much, Elizabeth Grace. You wrote that review back in October. I forgot to share it last episode. My apologies. Thank you for taking the time to share that and for sharing what you enjoy about this show. That will help new potential listeners discover what they will find when they tune in. If you too enjoy this show and have yet to write a review, it really truly does mean so much, not only to me, but to future and potential listeners, helping them find the podcast they're looking for, as there are so many shows to choose from. Thank you for choosing to tune in to the Simple Sophisticate podcast. As we step into the holiday season, we're all well aware that Black Friday and Cyber Monday are right around the corner. I don't know about you, but I've been getting all sorts of emails from all sorts of brands earlier and earlier. But I did want to let you know, because if you're interested or trying to save some money on something that you know you really want, I did want to let you know that during that period, so starting on the 29th of November running through the 2nd of December, the Contentment Masterclass is going to be reduced by $25, which I know that's not as much as it was for top tier members this past summer, but this is for everybody. Automatically, this course is going to be reduced $25 for everybody who wants to enroll. It is your course forever. You will have it forever. You can begin it whenever you want, but you can save $25 off just this weekend during the Black Friday weekend and Cyber Monday weekend. You don't even have to enter a code. And you can look at all the different reviews that have been shared so far from members who have completed it, as well as while they're in progress. I have one student who provided 2 reviews, one while she was in the middle of the course and one how she felt at the end of it. So you can take a look at what students are saying and see what they're learning, how it's progressing for them, what their approach has been to make this course something that's benefiting their lives. As well, if you're looking for any signed copy of the Simply Luxurious Life book, so 1, 2, or 3, all of them are 20% off in the store during Black Friday through Cyber Monday, so November 29th through December 2nd. The price will be automatically reduced at checkout. If you want a personal inscription, if you're gifting it to someone, you can write that in the note on the order page, and I will make sure to include that. We're stocked here in the office and ready to ship them out wherever you live or to whomever you want to receive them. And last but not least, if you have been considering or been tinkering with the idea of becoming a top tier member, now is a great time for great savings, because January 1st, prices permanently go up for top tier members. And what I mean by permanently is they're not going to go back, but your price, if you lock it in now, will never change. All right. So that's the beauty of being an active member. Even this includes pauses. So you can still pause it and maintain your price. And once you have your price, that is your price forever, so long as you're active. So prices will go up to $8.50 a month, to $23.50 for quarter, and $85 for the annual. So you want to jump in there and save money by becoming a member today before January 1st arrives. We have some fun things coming up in the new year. We're traveling to France, sharing all sorts of travels over there, as well as more home projects and whatnot. And speaking of home projects, if you haven't already checked it out, my primary bedroom closet tour was shared last week. All the details of my journey through that remodeling process of working with the designer and what it was like, and showing all sorts of before and after pictures, and sharing 10 reasons to consider customizing your wardrobe closet. It's not for everybody, but there are a lot of financial and lifestyle benefits to doing so, even though initially it might seem expensive up front. Depending on the answers to certain questions about your lifestyle and the home you live in and how long you're going to live there, it really is a worthwhile choice. It really improves the quality of life. So become a member so you can check out that exclusive post. All right. Wishing you a wonderful rest of the week. And if you are celebrating Thanksgiving next week, I hope you have a delicious and joy-filled Thanksgiving with your family and friends. Until Wednesday, December 3rd, when a brand new episode will be shared, I'll see you on the blog. Bonne journée. Thank you for tuning in to the Simple Sophisticate podcast, where intelligent living is paired with signature style. For more ideas and inspiration throughout the week, visit the blog, The Simply Luxurious Life, with the shortened URL tsll.co or thesimplyluxuriouslife.com. For more in-depth exploration of how to cultivate your own unique, simply luxurious life, pick up my new book, which became both a bestseller and #1 new release in France Travel, The Road to Le Papillon, Daily Meditations on True Contentment. Available in all 4 formats for your preferred reading or listening. My first book, titled Choosing the Simply Luxurious Life, and my second book, Living the Simply Luxurious Life, are also available in each of the 4 formats. Readers can now join the more intimate The Simply Luxurious Life international community by becoming members of the blog, which offers the benefits of ad-free reading site-wide, unlimited access and exclusive access to content on the blog, such as the monthly A Couple Moments with Shannon video chat, tours of my home Le Papillon, the monthly What Made Me Smile post, and monthly Ponderings post, as well as the exclusive opportunity to enter all of the giveaways during the annual French and British weeks. To stay caught up on all things Simply Luxurious, the podcast, blog post, the cooking show, and receive exclusive news, as well as an extra dose of inspiration to jumpstart each new month, subscribe to the Simply Luxurious Life's free monthly newsletter, arriving on the last day of each month in your inbox. There is also a weekly newsletter, which is also free, and arrives each Friday to keep you caught up on the recent weekly posts on the blog. Enjoy with a hot cuppa or cup of morning coffee, and stay in the know about all things simply luxurious. Look for 2 new episodes of this podcast on the first and third Wednesday of each month. And until next time, I'm your host, Shannon Ables. Thank you for tuning in. Bonne journée.